Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the Monday, July 15th meeting of the Board of Aldermen. Our first order of business is additions and deletions to the agenda. We'll move the executive session to the end, but are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from July 1st?
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to approve. It's been seconded. Any corrections or additions to the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we'll move to public comment, where members of the public are invited to address the board. First up are some folks from the Chamber and Economic Development of the Rutland region. Welcome.
Take your time. I'm in the right spot. Thank you for having us. We come to you, we being Crispin White, our membership and events manager, and Olivia Lyons, our communications and marketing manager. And we come to you sometimes twice a year, and you know why we're coming, because we're asking for sponsorship for two different activities. And I will turn it over to these folks who can tell you a little bit about what the ask is, and then they'll answer your questions because they're way smarter about both of the events and things than I am. So who wants to go first? Chris, want to go first?
Good evening, everyone. Again, we're here to ask for your support again for our third annual Whoopie Pie Festival, which will be on Saturday, September 14th in downtown Rutland. And this year, we're hoping that Dreammaker Baker, our signature baker, will be creating a 900-pound Whoopie Pie. Last year, they accomplished that with a 770-pound Whoopie Pie, and they are this close to the world record of 1,062 pounds. So hopefully that'll happen next year. The Whoopie Pie Festival is an event that brings together a lot of community agencies. And this year we were lucky enough to be considered a Vermont signature event. So with that designation, we're hoping that we will be able to pull in about 6,000 to 7,000 attendees to downtown Rutland. So that's our goal. That's something we're hoping to accomplish. And we are here to again ask for your support. We do have a number of wonderful sponsors helping us out with this. Our signature sponsor is Casella Waste Systems, and we are here to ask for support for the City of Rutland and the board in the form of $5,000. So any questions about our upcoming event?
How do you plan on taking care of your
Good question, Lyle. We're working with Casella Waste to help with that. They provide us with additional garbage cans and recycling bins throughout the course of the event. And this year, for the first time, they're also offering, I think, 55-gallon totes that are going to help with food composting. So we've been in contact with them. We've worked that all out. And what we want to do is make sure that we leave downtown Rutland the way we found it when we first got there in the morning. So that's our goal. I think we did a great job last year, and we're looking to do even a better job this year.
Alderwoman Taddeo.
Thank you so much for all of the work that you do for the community and bringing people into the community, which then brings business here. So last year, where did we pull this from the budget so I would know how to refer this? Or did we?
I think it's the mayor.
I believe it was from the mayor's
Has to come
contingency
from the
fund
mayor,
last
right.
year.
Refer to the mayor.
Okay, so I guess I would like to refer to the Community and Economic Development Committee the discussion of sponsoring the Whoopie Pie Festival in the amount of $5,000.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to refer this to Community and Economic Development. It's been seconded. Any discussion or debate on the referral? Alderman McCann.
I was just going to ask if you could tell us if anything is changing or being added to this year's event other than another 100 pounds of Whoopie Pie.
Well, we're adding a lot more family-friendly activities. We're working with a lot of nonprofit community partners to have tables there so they can share resources about what's available to our community residents. And we're also mindful of the fact that with the 900-pound Whoopie Pie, there might be some left over. So we partnered last year with Brock. They allowed us to use their freezer to store some of it, and then we have 6 or 7 locations that we're going to be distributing at the following week.
Nice. Well, I believe Alderman Heck has a question.
Crispin, last year, what did the city give you folks for a donation?
It was, I believe, $5,000.
If I may, I'm not sure why, you can go to committee, you can have a discussion about it. I think it's going to come out. I'd prefer to just see about making a motion to suspend the rules and take the issue up tonight and be done with it. But I know there's a motion on the floor, I believe, at the moment.
There is?
I would be happy to amend my motion and make a referral that we fund the Whoopie Pie Festival in the amount of $5,000 from the mayor's contingency fund.
Suspend the rules first.
A motion to suspend.
1 second, I'd just like to check
But
with the
also-
mayor.
right,
Is he
yes.
amenable to funding from his contingency fund?
Yeah, so I think it's, getting the board's voice on both of these items is really important to me, because this isn't, the mayor can certainly sponsor these things, but I think the board represents the people of Rutland, so if that's what Rutland wants to do, I am in support of funding this out of the contingency, but I'd like to see the board's support as well. So thank you very much.
Okay, Alderman Heck, did you make a motion to suspend the rules there?
Point of order, do we need to pull the motion off the floor first?
I revoke my motion.
Okay, that's what I thought she was trying to do, is withdraw her motion. Is the seconder okay with that?
Seconder is fine
Great.
with that.
Was
So I'll
someone-
make a motion to suspend the rules and take the issue up this evening.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to suspend the rules. It's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
And I'll make a motion to approve the request for a $5,000 donation to come out of the mayor's contingency fund for the 3rd annual Whoopie Pie Festival to be held on
September 14th,
at
12 to 5.
12 to 5.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to approve. It has been seconded. Discussion or debate on the motion? Alderman Whitcomb.
Since we're not going to go to committee, I'm just curious. I love that it brings thousands of people to downtown Rutland. Do you have any other measurables? What do we see for impact to businesses? Anything like that?
What I do is I go around the end of July and 2 weeks prior to the event to talk to each location in downtown and try to get to encourage them to really do something during that day. You're talking about thousands of people coming in downtown, so a lot of the shops will put things out on the sidewalk and have kind of like an informal sidewalk sale. So this is a benefit not only to the community residents because it brings a lot of activity, but we try to make it a benefit to the businesses as well. And what we've heard over the last couple of years is, along with a lot of the other activities, they appreciate having more people downtown. So this is another way to help with economic development as well.
Alderman Gillen.
I just have a question on parking,
Yes.
because when we have a couple events happening on Saturday, it becomes a big issue, and Walmart's a big taxpayer. And I guess we had a little problem the last time we had an event, that there was not enough parking for the Walmart customers. Is there a way we can get the word out to people to park in other locations?
This year, we're going to do the same thing we did last year, and that's work with Laz parking group with the parking garage to see if we can have free parking for them throughout the course of the day. So it will bring a lot more traffic and a lot more car traffic downtown, but if we can free that up quite a bit and do it at low or no cost, I think that'll be a huge benefit.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, seeing no further discussion, we have a motion to approve supporting the Whoopie Pie Festival with $5,000 from the mayor's contingency fund. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello. I am here to talk about our regional marketing initiative, which is Real Rutland. I'm sure many of you have heard about Real Rutland before. We are in its 8th year, correct? Yes. So this began as a way to encourage people to first understand where Rutland County is on the map and then move here, live here, work here, play here. So we have been building up the program. We continue to see people come through, move to Rutland City. About 80% of the people who come through the program actually move to the city. And we've been expanding it. So not only do we work with local businesses to help attract people here and then help them, their spouses, their families feel comfortable once they move here by meeting our wonderful volunteers that we have through the program and other people who are willing to just welcome them in. But we also are now expanding it to weekend getaways. So we put it out across the country and we say, hey, check out Rutland County. If you're interested in moving here, talk to me. And we interview about 50 people every time, and from there we pick 4 families. We invite them to come to Rutland County for a weekend getaway. It is pretty much all inclusive. They have to pay to come here. And then we introduce them to real estate agents. We introduce them to teachers, and we have them tour schools. They can meet with employers while they're here and really give them a vacation with an eye on moving here. We have received a GROW grant through the state. The important thing to point out about that is this program is basically mimicking what Real Rutland is. So the state acknowledges that what Real Rutland has been doing over the past 8 years is working. It's getting a lot of people to check out Vermont, move here, have jobs here, and they are now working with us to kind of encourage other counties across the state to do a similar program and have more people move to Vermont in total. We ask each year if the city would be willing to sponsor Real Rutland for $1 per person who lives in the city. It comes out to about $16,000. And am I missing anything, Lyle? All right. Okay, I'm open to any questions.
Alderman McClure.
Do we know where last year this funding was pulled from when we agreed to sponsor?
I believe it was from the mayor's contingency fund as well.
Got it.
Fortunately, the Board of Aldermen has no money.
We're gonna find out tonight.
What is the board's pleasure? Alderman McClure.
I would move a motion to refer the matter of sponsoring the Real Rutland program in the amount of $16,000 to the Community and Economic Development Committee.
Second.
That's true.
All right, so we have a motion to refer to CED. It has been seconded. Discussion or debate on the referral. Alderman McClure.
I would ask the mayor if he's got the funds to support this, and if so, would he be interested in taking the matter up tonight?
Sure. So it's a great question. Contingency is a tough line item because it's not just used for, bless you, Gordon, willy-nilly stuff, but it's really the idea of it is to cover unbudgeted things when certain stuff comes up. One of the things I wanted to put in this year's budget was a marketing line item, and it didn't happen. We had so many things we had to cut and trim just to make it land where it was, and we'll be talking about a lot of that tonight. And not to run on, but marketing our city is absolutely critical, and I understand that this is a regional marketing initiative, and I know that Real Rutland goes out to other parts of the region and asks for their sponsorship into this program as well, and they do the same thing. They ask based on population. Here's the thing. Vermont Housing Finance Agency specifically said that in the next 10 years, we're going to need 9,000 new housing units, and that's something that we constantly talk about. Part of the reason is we're trying to grow the population here. Part of the reason we're trying to grow the population is that population growth is one of the major things that can help lessen the burden on every property taxpayer. The more people we have to share the load, the better it is for everyone. And that adds to our economy, it adds to our culture, it adds to our overall growth. So if I'm going to pick anything to put effort behind when it comes to the regional marketing initiative, this is one of the top things that needs to get done for our area to keep that growth, that population growth. And this is a proven track record. It's not like we're investing in something that isn't proven. When you hear numbers like 80%, the sales conversions are 10 to 12 to 14%. An 80% conversion ratio on anything is absolutely phenomenal. So I would say that I would support this, but again, I'm asking for the board's full support. So if it's something that you can do tonight, that'd be fantastic. Otherwise, committee's fine. Thank you.
Alderman Whitcomb.
Well, I've certainly appreciated the Real Rutland campaign, in this in particular. This is something I would really like to see go to committee. I want to see the numbers in front of me. I want to see what's worked, where have we discovered maybe avenues that weren't as fruitful as we thought. And I also think it lends itself to the ability to discuss, this campaign and how it may work, in conjunction with, and for lack of a better term, the prospectus that Mayor Dunges has put forth to go out and get a request for proposal for. So I would really like to dive into this a little deeper to just better understand what have the last 8 years brought us.
So we have a motion to refer to the Community and Economic Development Committee. It's been seconded. Seeing no additional discussion or debate, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. So Alderwoman Taddeo will let you know when that meeting is scheduled and invite you all to attend.
Thank you. And if there's anything specific that anyone would like to see for stats or information, please let me know and I'll find the information for you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next person who's asked to speak during public comment, Emily Wood.
Hi, thank you for letting me be here and give me your time and attention. I'm a native Vermonter from Rutland, 1985 graduate from RHS, 96 graduate from CCV and so on. I live at the Bardwell House and I'm simply here to share some things that are concerns that some of the tenants have expressed. But I want to say first that the city put a lot of expense and work into renovation of the Center Street Marketplace Park. And it seemed like it was the plan to lock the gates to protect the space at night and possibly to help out the Roots restaurant owner, make sure that people weren't messing with his place. But the rest of what I say, you need to understand that it's not stuff that I have witnessed myself, other than whether or not the locks are closed on the gates. I'm just here as kind of like a mouthpiece for some of the other tenants. And one of the tenants was extremely upset, thinking she was not safe going out behind the Bardwell house to bring her dog out to go to the bathroom at night. And we actually ended up arguing because I said, the gates are locked. She said, they're not doing it anymore. And basically it ended up with her telling me, why don't you go out and check for yourself? So for 5 non-consecutive nights, I did go and check. And one of the nights, the Merchants Row gate was not locked. The lock was there, but it wasn't closed. And I closed it, and I thought, I hope I don't get in trouble because I'm messing with something. But at least 2 of the nights, the Washington Street gate was wide open. And one of the nights, it was just the same as the other lock. It was just hanging there, and if you didn't look very close, it would look like it was locked, but it wasn't closed. But the thing is, I wasn't able to close it. The lock is broken. And I'm just going to share some of the things that the tenants have shared as concerns, and skipping over a bunch of the things I wrote here because I kind of covered it. Well, basically, in an emergency, when the elevators can't be used, some of the tenants are worried about if people can't use the stairs and they have to use a ramp, they would have to go out the back ramp, at the back door that has the big long black ramp, and they would be stuck there if the gates were locked. So they were first, the complaint was they're not locked, but that complaint is, what if they're locked? So, another tenant said she saw a kid with a gun out there. They've seen, a number of tenants have seen people going in there to sleep, people going there to do drugs. This is all when the gates are supposed to be locked at night and no one's supposed to be in there. They've also seen people climbing over the gates and the fence. There's one, if you're facing the Paramount Theater and Roots Restaurant is on your right, there's kind of like a electrical looking box just to the left of the end of the fence. And somebody moved one of the benches over to just below that so they can climb over the fence easier. I'm not gonna try to move it myself. Another issue is, well, graffiti is there now. Some of it is new. I never went into the downstairs area that leads to the Center Street bar there. But when I was checking the gates, I did, and there was what looked like new graffiti there, but I can't say because, like I said, I never went down there before. But there is new graffiti in the alley that has the fish mural on it. And if it made sense, then I wouldn't say too much about it. Actually, I'm joking. It doesn't even look like a word. It's just a jumbled mess. Anyways, but I'm just here to share this information. I'm not technically the leader or somebody that people decided, oh, you go say this or anything. I got sick of listening to people complaining in the building, and they're having an easy time complaining to each other about it or telling me what they've seen, and none of them wrote it down, and I don't see any of them here tonight, so that's kind of disappointing for me. And I did tell them multiple times that I was coming here to say something about it, and would prefer that they come and say something that they saw themselves than for me to stand here and say, well, this is what I heard. And pretty much that's the end of it, I guess. But a colleague of mine has suggested that maybe the city could create a space where people could go ahead and do their graffiti or their art type things, and they wouldn't be defacing things in the park and other areas. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing this information with us. Any questions from members of the board?
So I just have a question of the
Alderwoman Davis.
mayor, if I may. Who is it, rec or police? Who goes around, or merchants, to lock those gates?
So the rec usually locks it.
Okay.
I believe that depending, like if it's a late night,
Right.
Roots will lock the
main gate
yeah,
there.
the main gate
Okay.
there.
Yes.
I've seen every once in a while it gets unlocked, and what usually happens is somebody will call PD and they'll go lock the
Okay.
gate, which is great. So they're pretty good about responding. Cindy contacted me a few weeks ago. She wanted to come talk to the board, but from that time, noticed PD to just keep an extra eye on it so they're aware. And then, I didn't get a chance to talk to Tyler this morning before he ran out, but we'll just make sure that they're getting it done every night. That doesn't, on the other hand, though, that doesn't prevent people from hopping the fences. And I just happened to be in the park where the park was unlocked, but people were hopping the fence from the alley side the other day. So I don't know what we can do outside of installing sharp spikes on the top of fences, which I don't think we're quite at that stage yet. But maybe an extra patrol, something to that effect, to keep an eye on things.
Maybe some lighting. I don't
Yeah, a
know.
little extra lighting.
Yeah.
So we're aware of it. We're working on it. We appreciate the citizen concern, and with Bardwell being right there, it's a home next to this space, so people want to feel safe. So thank you for coming and talking about it. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next person who's asked to speak under public comment is Administrator Strniste.
Good evening, everyone. I have a quick FYI for the board, given the amount of public interest and board interest. So 82 East Washington Street, that permit was revoked back in early June. The applicant has since reapplied to meet the parameters of the DRB decision, and that permit has been issued last week, and we have one appeal in, so that appeal hearing will be held on August 21st at 6 o'clock. So just an FYI, any questions?
Any questions from the board for Administrator Strniste? Alderman Heck.
The appeal goes to the DRB?
Yep. So the permit is appealed, it goes to the DRB. Should anyone not agree with the DRB's decision, then it would go to the environmental court.
Thank you.
And for members of the public at home, the DRB is the Development Review Board.
Yes. Sorry.
Great. Thank you.
Great.
Are there any other members of the public who wish to address the board on items not on our agenda? Step right up. Welcome.
I'm Paul Gallo from McKinley Avenue with the Bike Path Committee. Third time is a charm. The two pieces of bridge are going to be leaving Minnesota, headed to Rutland the week of July 24 or 25. Belden will be putting them together, two 80-foot pieces, putting them together, and July 31st, Wednesday, at 11 o'clock. You want to pencil it in, it'll be penciled. And the reason being is we are coordinating with Green Mountain Power and Velco to get the overhead lines moved in different directions. They got to go up and be shut down for a few hours. So we think we're good this time. Like I said, third time's a charm, and that's why I came with her tonight. Try to give it some good luck. So we hope to see you on Wednesday at 11 a.m., July 31st at Meadow Street Park.
Thank you for the update. We appreciate it and the invitation.
If the weather's bad, they won't install it. They'll do it the next day.
Right.
Very good. Thank you so much. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on to communications from the mayor.
Good evening. So first up, I have a nomination for Planning Commission. So I'd like to nominate Rebecca Stevens to the Rutland City Planning Commission, and I'd like to ask the board, as traditional, to table the nomination until the next meeting.
So move.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to table the mayor's nomination of Rebecca Stevens to the Planning Commission. It's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Fantastic. So just as an FYI, some of you may know Rebecca. She is the Executive Director of Habitat for Humanity. Big into housing. I think it'd be a great lead into the Planning Commission. And she said she can make it for the next meeting, so she'll be here if you have any questions. I'll also she's going to send me her resume. I'll probably have it tomorrow or the next day, and I'll send it out to everybody so you can reach out to her. I want to spend a minute to talk about the Homeless Transitional Housing Program. This is the program development. This is the state grant. I mentioned it last week that we got some time ago. I have two names that I'm about to announce. It's not that big of a deal, but that are going to be working. For the city, paid for by this grant. It's going to be Chris Loris, one of your previous mayors, and Megan Novak. And Chris and Megan have actually worked together at Crime Research Group in the past. They're working on some additional projects throughout the state with public safety initiatives. Chris has a very tight ties into Project Vision and what's been going on there from its inception. So what's fantastic about this is they know the players, they know the resources, they have the contacts and communications, and they're going to be able to help build and develop this program around this transitional housing campus that we hope to see, and just homeless transition in general. So they'll be housed over at the Vision Center. They've already started communicating with Commander Prouty, which is fantastic, about how they can work together. And Commander Prouty has already decided that he wants to start leveraging their resources to help him find grants for his van, the vehicle that he uses, to go out and help people in the field. So we're starting to see synergies already, and this is going to be fantastic. And I just want to kind of put the thank you out there to Chris and Megan for stepping up and putting their names in the ring, but also to the state for really supporting this. The state doesn't support most of the time with their grant money, especially from OEO, which is the Office of Economic Opportunity. They don't usually support planning opportunities like this. And since this is planning and this isn't, actual implementation, it's nice to see them put a little bit of line drive to Rutland when they are aware that the challenge here is so prominent. So I'll continue to give you updates. We'll probably have Chris and Megan to an Alderman meeting, maybe not the next one, but the one after, once they get a little bit established. And they can kind of give you an overview of how the project's going to work out and how they're going to operate as a team. Any questions on that?
Alderman Heck.
The grant was for how long and for how much?
So it was up to 2 years for $240,000. Of that, $170,000 was assigned to salaries. Just to kind of elaborate on your question, Alderman Heck, the idea is that they'll both be part-time. These aren't full-time positions. It's more of a contract rate and contract hours. And they'll be both working, and we're scheduling it actually to be about 18 months because we're about 5 or 6 months into the grant time period, but OEO is good with us taking 18 months from now or so. That they feel like 18 months is a good timetable too to kind of get to the end goal.
Very good.
Any other questions on that? Awesome. National Night Out is Tuesday, August 6th, so there's one more Alderman meeting before that, but I just want to announce it now so you can mark your calendars. It's from 4 to 7 p.m. I am sure Alderman Gillen will be there grilling, as he is every year, along with his team. But we're looking forward to that. Lots of good vendors are already signed up and continue to sign up. If you would like to be there and have a table at National Night Out, please contact our police department or our rec center to discuss that. They'd be happy to have more vendors, and the more the merrier. I want to make a quick comment. I know we're going to have a lot of budget discussion this evening. Had a lot of discussions with Mary this week just about what's coming with setting the tax rate, where we've been, where we're headed. Today we discussed how if we look at the budget, salaries, overtime, PD took a lot of whatever surplus was there and then some beyond the line. And we saw that with PD. I want to call out two things. One, first, the change that we made earlier in this year by eliminating the double time MOU and giving a upfront salary pay grade to MOU it really did slow the bleeding, and we watched that overtime line and spend slow down, not go down, but slow down. So that's a big piece of it. And then where normally the police department is the surplus line that we get to benefit from, that just wasn't there this year, right? The other piece of the puzzle is that in a couple of the areas where we were over on salary, specifically my office zoning and a little bit in DPW, what you'll remember is that we allocated $460,000 of last year's funds to a specific fund, and then we released them last Alderman meeting to the unassigned fund balance. Of the unspent portion of that, some of that does go into the $574,000 that we're looking towards giving back to the taxpayer. So the money that didn't get spent on those positions that either didn't get filled or they weren't there for a full year is going back to the taxpayer in the form. So it's not a waste, and we just postponed it a year. And it actually benefited us a little bit this year from my perspective. I also just want to say it again. I mean, there's been so much work from the assessor's office, from the treasurer's office, really leading up to this time period. The summer's very busy around here, and that's actually my next line, but I just want to say thank you to them specifically for leading up to tonight. It is amazing how much they just kind of crunch out these numbers and with extra hours and on the weekends and whatnot. It's a huge effort, so make sure you ask good questions tonight when we're setting the tax rate. Also, I want to thank the rest of the department heads. I get reports every 2 weeks. I get a written report updates from my department heads, and then every month we meet and sit together. And I am just amazed at how much they get done, and especially this time of year. There is so much workload on these department heads, on these teams, not just the department heads. And actually, I want to be more specific. I put down here, thank department heads. I want to thank everybody in these departments is what I really want to do. The work is insurmountable, it never ends, and the effort never goes unnoticed. So just a big thank you out there to everyone for doing the work, especially at the busiest time of year for most of City Hall and our other departments. So thank you very much. That is it for me tonight, and have a good meeting.
Great. Thank you. Moving on to consideration of special event permit requests. First up, I believe we have a representative from the Towering Together fundraiser. Welcome. Be held on September 21st at the Fairgrounds. I believe this is for information only.
Yes. So I am Stacy Gallipo. I am a resident of Rutland, and I work at General Electric Aerospace. I went around and asked a bunch of people who work there what would they think of having competition with our military men and women and first responders throughout the state of Vermont. And they thought it sounded like fun. And I said, well, there's a foundation. How many of you know of the Tunnel to Tower Foundation? Okay, on 9/11, Stephen Stiller passed away. He was a firefighter. After he was off duty, turned around, heard about it, went back, got his gear, went in, he passed away in the line of duty. So his brother, Frank Stiller, created this foundation. Now, if you look it up, because it's way too much, too many programs that are really nice and good, they help support our men and women, their families, whether you are a first responder or a military men or women. So I am looking for this to be a fun time for everyone in the state of Vermont. From here on out, this will be the very first one that Vermont has ever had. So I would like to do this and invite all of you to be there, and I would like the mayor to speak as a speaker, so that would be great. We do have an ambassador from there that I am requesting to show up to discuss some of it. We have a 16-year-old girl from Rutland who is going to sing the national anthem, and I hear she's wonderful. I have not heard of her, but boy, everybody praises her, so I'm sure she'll be wonderful. So there are games. The first games of this annual event, we would like to make this, actually, that was per another business in Rutland that said, hey, what if we do this annually? $10 will be admission. That will be for all the games that are going to be played. $10 for an adult, $5 for a child, anyone 5 and under will be free. We want to make it low enough because we would like to encourage our young children, anyone, even us adults, to interact with our men and women throughout the state. So tug of war, sack races, and cornhole have been the first 3 choices. Now, this is something that's going to be for everybody. This is not, it's something I dreamed of, kind of thought of, but I want this to be something that everybody in the state of Vermont can come up with ideas and say, hey, what about we do this year? It's not about whether or not I want this to happen, it's all of us. So children, we would like any ideas, something more, but we want them to do write-ups on someone they know who has passed or is in the service, first responder. I do have, so let me see, so we did the games, write-ups, face painting, hair tinseling, and bracelets, jewelry, something that's patriotic. We will have some items that people have donated some money from. It's just other people that I know that have put money into it. And so there will be free merchandise we're going to just pick a name out of a hat. So we're looking for ideas. And I know we're looking for a DJ. We may have one. I do have the Army, the Marines, and the National Guard. They are on board with all of this. I've got to get in touch with others. I was at the recruiting center. I'm old-fashioned. I like to go personally, not just on the phone. So we are looking for ideas. And I really would like this to be an annual event. I don't want to give away the other businesses, but we are looking for businesses to join every year. We've got 3, and one that's definitely in, but I don't want to give that one away until he gives it away. I would like him to say that. He was very happy about this, and it was his idea to do it annually. So we do have, I did put out an email to the Civil Air Patrol to volunteer to help with traffic, parking. I do have some contact, a gentleman that I'm in contact with from Norwich University, and we are talking about buses of volunteers. And we're looking for teams. Tug of War is a 5-man team. And now I went around and said, what are the rules? Nobody wants it basic. Everyone wants to give it a little bit of a twist. So the first one, Tug of War is a 5-man team, one being the captain. The captain cannot join only at the end of the rope, and one time, 15 seconds timed, to either help pull your team over to win or to step in and stop you from being pulled over. 15 seconds is up, they'll whistle will blow, and they will step off. So it's the best 2 out of 3 games. Sack races will not just be back and forth. It is going to be barrel racing. Well, they're going to go around the barrels at the Fairgrounds. They go around the barrels and there will be time. The top 10 will be the ones chosen to compete against each other. Any ideas for anything? Now, Meticulous has offered to build our cornhole games. So that is what they are doing. We've also got some that are businesses who are offering, okay, so it would be personal, I have no tax ID number, okay? And so I've said, out of the kindness of your hearts, anybody who wants to put any money towards the fairgrounds, they're welcome to. But it would be something that is up to them personally to donate. Okay, so any questions?
Any questions from members of the board? Alderman McCann.
What's the best way to get information to you if somebody has a
Okay.
suggestion?
Yes, we are now in the process of, by the end of the week, the registration form, the team rosters, and everything will be online, and it will be my email address. If you would like, I can bring that in for all of you here. I will drop it off in the office. But mine, I created a new email for just the event because everybody wants it annually now. And so Rutland Fairgrounds, this will be the very first one ever done.
Very good. Any additional questions from the board? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Moving on to reports and letters from department heads and officials. First up, we have Administrator Strniste with an update on the Mendon Planning Commission hearing regarding the Econo Lodge site.
Hello again. So last Monday, I attended the Mendon Planning Commission meeting regarding the Econo Lodge site. The Planning Commission seemed receptive of potential conditions of approval from the city. Mainly, I vocalized how there was concern over storage of potential hazardous waste, whether that be in drums or barrels or anything along those lines. So they are planning, it sounds as if they're planning to put a condition of approval to make sure that doesn't happen. On top of, I inquired about the what they're going to use for de-icing in the winter to make sure that doesn't leach into the watershed. So I'm supposed to be getting that information hopefully before the continued hearing starts up, which is August 19th. So I'm going to attend again, and hopefully by that time I'll have more information that I can run past Department of Public Works to make sure that it works for them. So outside of that, not much more to report.
Very good. Thank you. Next, we have Ed Bove from the Rutland Redevelopment Authority with a request for the board to approve a contract amendment. There's a memo and supporting documents on pages 11 to 14 of your packet.
Hello. Can everyone hear me over there? This mic, I don't know if it's picking up that well.
It's just for PEG TV. It doesn't actually
okay.
amplify your voice.
I was going to tell some really bad jokes that nobody would be able to hear. No, thank you for having me. I'm here to follow up on our discussion from a couple Board of Aldermen meetings ago where we discussed the TIF project. And you'll see in your memo there is an amendment to an existing contract that was signed a few years ago to do phase 1 and phase 2. We are now in the final phase, and this is an amendment to use White and Burke for the rest of it. You can see in the memo how much this part is for, which also includes part to Morris Strategies, which would be a subcontract for a communications plan. Again, this is an amendment to an original one, and just as a side note, this is all TIF reimbursable. When the TIF is set up and we start doing work and bond for infrastructure projects, all the costs that are going into setting up the TIF, we can put into the bond and pay for that as well. So, are there any questions about what's in your packet, the contract?
Alderwoman McClure.
My only question is the approval, if we move to approve this amendment, is this approval time sensitive? Do you need an answer immediately, or is this something we could send to committee for further discussion with the group?
Well, I would like it immediate because White and Burke is hoping to subcontract with Morris Strategies, and I don't want them to get pushed out too far.
Understood.
I know when we spoke last time, we did talk about the contract a little bit, so I'm hoping there's enough information from the board and what we're doing that we could do it tonight. But again, you guys are in charge, obviously.
Alderman Gillen.
Move to suspend the rules to take the matter up tonight.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to suspend the rules. It's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Move to authorize the mayor to sign the new amended contract with White and Burke.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to allow the mayor to sign the amended contract with White and Burke. It's been seconded. Discussion or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Next up is Engineer Gillen with a request to authorize the mayor to sign the Vermont Community Tree Planting Grant Agreement. You'll find a memo and supporting documents on pages 15 to 34.
Good evening. Yeah, so back in May, we submitted that application. We got the full amount, $75,000. So I'm just looking to get the mayor to sign the document, push forward. It's an interesting grant in the sense that they're going to give us 75% of the money up front, which is pretty unheard of. So I'm excited about that. Just as a reminder, it's $75,000 to purchase materials. The project cost estimate was $78,000. So all we have to pay out of pocket is a few $1,000s and, of course, pay our guys to build it.
Alderwoman Taddeo?
Motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to suspend the rules. It's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
And a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the Vermont Community Tree Planting Grant Agreement with the final form to be approved by the city attorney.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the grant agreement pending city attorney approval. It's been seconded. Alderman Gillen?
Just a question. This is not until 25, right? 2025, am I correct?
Yes.
And we're doing sidewalks and paving. Are we doing the parking lot too on Chester Square?
Yes.
We are. So that'll all look totally different and new, combined with the state going through there paving the roadside part of it.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional discussion or debate? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Engineer Gillen is up again with a request related to the VTrans Class 2 Highway Grant Agreement. You'll find information on 35 to 55 of your packet.
So I submitted an application for door drive. The project cost was around $127,000 to reclaim and pave it. They gave us a grant for 80% of that cost. That's the 104. Just looking for permission to sign the grant.
Alderman Gillen?
Move to suspend the rules and take the matter up tonight.
Second.
Right, we have a motion to suspend the rules. It's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Authorize the mayor to sign the VTrans Class 2 Highway Grant Agreement for resurfacing Door Drive from River Street to Ripley Road with the final form to be approved by the city attorney.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the grant agreement. It's been seconded. Alderwoman Davis?
So, Ted, just the difference in funding, where it will come from, just within your existing budget, you'll
it'll
find the
come-
difference?
Exactly.
There was also an issue that was in committee, Bill, for that area, in regards to a culvert. Would that work be done at all?
That's on the Ripley, that's on the
Clement Road.
Clement
It's
Road
Clement
piece.
Road, I'm sorry.
We're going to
Okay.
put, that's in committee coming up on Monday.
Okay.
We're going to invite the two young ladies in to deal with that.
Okay.
Because apparently, we're going to be doing something there in 225, it's my understanding anyway, so.
All right, thank you.
All right, any additional discussion or debate on the motion to authorize the mayor to sign the grant agreement? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And Engineer Gillen once more with a request related to the Center Street Utility Engineering Services. There's a memo and supporting documents on 56 to 63 of your packet.
This one's a little more complicated. To date, we've designed the water main replacements for Whale Street and Center Street. The scoping study that Otter Creek performed for us made recommendations for improvements to sewer mains, some stormwater improvements, and as we know, Center Street's kind of gaining some steam, so it'd be in our best interest to move forward with designing the rest of it. I know that the original request was to just have the mayor sign this contract amendment with Otter Creek. I'd prefer to send it to committee to discuss how the design's going to be done in phases. This $20,000 would only cover the first 30% of the design. We have it that way for various reasons. I'd like to discuss that further in committee, along with funding source opportunities and things of that nature.
Alderman Gillen.
Move to Public Works Committee.
Second.
We have a motion to refer this matter to the Public Works Committee. It's been seconded. Discussion or debate on the referral? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Treasurer Markowski with a request for review and approval signatures on loan documents for the Grove Street Culvert Project. A memo and supporting documents were emailed to board members yesterday.
Hi, everyone. So this project is related to the request that went to the voters last March. The total was $1.5 million bond for culvert replacements on Grove Street and Lincoln Avenue. So this request is to sign the bond documents of $750,000. This will, we do have some bond funds from another culvert bond, so that and this will cover the Grove Street, probably have a little bit left to start Lincoln Avenue. So that's what the request is, for the board to sign those bond documents, and I apologize for putting them in this very busy meeting, but the closing is coming up soon, so.
Very good. Alderwoman McClure.
Having seen and reviewed the resolution and certificate and its attachments related to the issuance
If I could interrupt you, we would need a motion to suspend the rules.
Motion to suspend the rules first.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to suspend the rules. It has been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Having seen and reviewed the resolution and certificate and attachments to related the issuance of the city's $75,000 general obligation bond and its sale to the Vermont Municipal Bond Bank, I hereby move the adoption and approval of the resolution and certificate as presented in this meeting. Also, I move to circulate the documents for board signatures and authorize the clerk, mayor, and treasurer to sign as required.
Second.
Can I just clarify the amount? Is it 75 or 750?
750.
750.
Did I write it wrong? Sorry.
No, I read it wrong, so that
okay.
was my fault.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion. It has been seconded. Discussion or debate? Is that a hand, Henry?
Kind of.
Alderman Heck?
Mary, it's I don't know, picky, I guess. It's just on when you, to, from, and the RE, it's the Vermont Municipal Bond Bank documents for Grove Street Culvert Project, but it's also Lincoln as well?
Yeah, there may be some bond funds left, Henry, and if there are, then we'll work with the bond bank to roll that forward.
You don't
yeah.
need to include Lincoln in there for
No.
anything then? Okay, perfect, thank you.
I've already spoken with bond counsel.
Yep.
Alderman McCann.
So is the part of the process here, we go and get these bond funds and then it would go to Public Works to go out for a request for bid, or is that part already like
They've
figured out?
already done that.
Okay,
Yeah, they've
okay.
already done that. So this project will begin in August, about the same time that the bond funds arrive.
Great, okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any additional discussion or debate? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Treasurer Markowski again with a review of preliminary financial reports for the period ending June 30th. These were emailed to board members.
Did you circulate that? I want to make sure. Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure. Thanks. Okay, this is tax rate, so just a reminder, when we look at June, that the numbers are preliminary, because we still have quite a bit to do in the office for year-end adjustments. There's still quite a bit, I think, that's going to come through for accounts payable, also some grant receipts. So I really wanted to highlight the general fund tonight because of setting the tax rate. So when we set the tax rate, we start thinking about how much more do you think we're going to get? How many more accounts payable will we have? How many grant receipts? Those things matter when we are setting the tax rate, and really looking at June to see, do we have a surplus? How much? What's going to be available? So I really wanted to spotlight that that fund. So first of all, any questions on general fund June 30 as I presented?
Alderwoman McClure.
Just wondering, where would parking revenue be sorted into these categories here?
The parking revenue will focus on next meeting probably because that's in fund, it's a separate fund.
Got it.
And we are only really looking at general fund tonight.
Got
The
it.
numbers are in here in the packet, but I think I have some year-end entries. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks.
Alderman Heck.
If you would, Mary, just a definition of unbudgeted grants miscellaneous.
Unbudgeted grants, the city has a lot of grants, right? We don't budget, we don't raise taxes for grants because we expect if we're gonna spend money, it's gonna be offset by grant revenues. And miscellaneous would be insurance receipts, the opioid money that we received, miscellaneous. Those things are unbudgeted revenues that we didn't expect. So that's in that large number that you see.
And if I may, Mary, just to follow up, is it normal for the revenues or the expense side of it to be as, or much bigger than the revenue side?
In this year, when you see the revenues, I didn't put it all in the packet because I was working out the best way to explain it to you before the meeting. So when you're looking at the revenues, and it's high, so we reported excess revenue of 1.8 million, right? That includes those grant funds and the opioid funds, those kind of things are in that number. And as well, I detailed by department, we did well on our non-tax revenue. So that's all in that number. And then when you look at the expenses, it's quite a bit higher at 2.9 million. What's included in there is what we used to have as ARPA funds that's now restricted in, assigned in the general fund. There was 1.3 million of that is spending of those dollars. So you're looking at a couple of things there, so it's hard to really see how much is left because you're using fund balance and you also have operating revenues and expenses. So when I looked at the expense numbers, so it's almost like 1.3 million came in grants, 1.3 million went out. So, and if you looked, the non-tax revenues have been great. Remember, that's the number that we use to say we don't have to raise as much in property taxes because we expect that. So those numbers are wonderful. The downside is we overspent. So all of that we gained doesn't really bring back a lot for the taxpayers. So when you are over budget, I'll avoid saying overspending or unbudgeted. When you make decisions to spend and it wasn't in the budget, those things are going to impact us at the end of the year. So, and they did. Basically, we asked the voters to approve a budget of 24 million, and we said we're going to spend it this year. So we closely, if you look at the numbers, you can see that we did.
Alderwoman Davis.
So, Mary, there was a concern that you had with the additional 1%, whether or not we were receiving all that was due to the city, and you were going to be checking with the state.
Yeah.
Because of the 05701 issue.
Right.
Any resolution, any feedback?
No resolution on that yet, but I have, what's been difficult is I reached out to the state. I said, I don't know if it's a real coincidence that Rutland Town had excess money, or was it just incorrectly recorded as town local option tax. So I said, I would like the state to look into that. So they need a list of businesses, and that's what we're gathering right now, so that we can.
So there's a positive way to do that check and balance of.
Yeah, the
business was city, or the business was town, or the business was Mendon.
Right. One of the things that we noticed as we're going through, as the local option tax is new, when you look at a sales tax return, when you're if a business is completing it and there's a drop down, pick your city or town, and it's not sorted alphabetically, and Rutland is second from the bottom. So you might say, if you didn't know the area and know that there was a town and a city, Rutland, okay, let me check that box. So I wanted them to look at that and see if that was something that, I'm not sure. I don't think it's that people aren't filing, but they're filing and maybe not selecting the correct town.
Alderman Heck?
So they're going to look into it.
And just to follow up, I believe there was an issue with traffic violations between the town and the city back some time ago where actual revenues were being sent to the town instead of the city. So, you know, thank you for the due diligence, Mary, in that regards, because I would never leave anything up to the state by themselves as far as that goes. So ask away, please.
I'm really happy with their willingness to, for us to supply some information, list of businesses, and they would research those for us.
Great.
Yep.
Great. Thank you.
Alderman McCann?
Yeah, thank you. So for the non-tax revenue numbers that you said were looking good, is there any reason to think that was just sort of a one-time windfall this past year, or do you think that's something that's kind of set up to look good next year too?
I think it's set up to look good next year. Actually, on Friday, the mayor and I went through that list to see where, and we are forecasting 12% increase from what we had.
On top of the already.
What we had budgeted last year, so, yeah, an increase. We kind of went line by line. I totally messed up interest earnings, so I think I did a better calculation, so maybe, I mean, I budgeted 40,000 and we collected 199, so. So I budgeted differently this year, and I hope I can do that, so we'll try. It was a good, it went the right way, so.
Any additional questions for the treasurer? All right, we'll move on to the next.
I wanted to, one more thing that I think is really important based on discussion earlier on contingency. I want to explain contingency a little bit because we always, remember this is the mayor's budget, so we call it the mayor's contingency fund. But we have to resist like just saying, okay, we're going to add a little bit to a whoopie pie, we're going to add a little bit there, because you do have instances where you didn't forecast something that is all of a sudden in your budget. And I'll use a great example this year, the state of Vermont child care tax contribution. So that's $50,000 that we didn't anticipate in the general fund. So that's going to come out of, that's why that contingency fund is there, to offset those types of things as well. So I actually am not sure if the mayor is aware, but I keep a list when I hear of unbudgeted items and I try to track that because, yeah, so.
So the city is paying it rather than employee?
Yeah, and we did go through a process with you had to, because the way the tax worked is the city, the employer could pay the entire thing or pass 25% or 0.0011% to the
employee.
We had to work with union groups, and Attorney LaChance was the union groups. How do we want to do this? So we came to the decision that it would be paid through by the union groups. Refused to.
I'm sorry?
The union groups did not agree to accepting the employee share.
I'm sure.
Okay, so yeah, I'm saying that with a straight face.
I guess my concern is that you have taxpayers out there who are paying it through their paychecks, and now we're picking up the city share as well.
Absolutely, but I know there was some work on, I think we actually had a legal opinion on how to handle that. Like, we couldn't just put it into employees' paychecks.
You have to negotiate it.
There was, yeah.
Right.
So that was.
So that'll be on the table, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if I may.
Alderman Heck.
It's the state is requesting it though. It's just like a state income tax, federal income tax, Medicare, Medicaid, whatever you want to call it. How is it that someone can just say, we're not going to pay that? Or a union can say, we're not going to pay that, we're not going to accept that. I mean, if the state's requiring it, why is it that it gets passed on and the city's footing the bill when it should just automatically come out of the paycheck? How can they, I guess I'll look at you and say, how can they just say, we're not going to pay that?
Yeah, and To answer your question, I believe because the way that it was written, if it had said this tax is 0.44% of your salary and the employer, but it had that, oh, and you could consider taking it from, you know what I mean? It wasn't written that 75% would come from employer and 25% would come from, you had a little bit of leeway. You can charge or you may not, so.
Thank you.
That's why.
Alderman Gillen?
I think you're hitting it right on the nail, and she just hit it on the nail. It's just like FICA, where the federal and the state has a mandate. You shall charge the employee this, you shall, well, they didn't do it with this bill. They left it open-ended and didn't confirm what the total should have been. So much for the employee, so much from the employer. So that, again, is another piece of legislation that needs to come back next year and revisit. I mean, passing that on to the community is tough.
Alderman Wickham?
Thank you, President Talbot. As I'm listening to this, I'm just thinking for those watching at home, there's probably a level of context here, which is what the heck piece of legislation are we talking about? And I just want to make sure that this is the bill that was passed by the Vermont legislature saying families of 4 with an income up to $120,000 a year would be capped in what they have to contribute to childcare, and therefore others are on the hook to contribute through a payroll tax. Is
Yes,
that the right
yeah,
way?
it is described as a child care contribution. So.
I know, I made my own.
Yeah, I did as well, so. But anyway, I didn't mean to get off on that, but I'm glad that we talked about it, but that's what your contingency line is for, amongst other things. So you have to be mindful as we go through. We're in July, so we're gonna, we need to we have 2 union contracts that haven't been finalized, so those things, if we didn't budget correctly, they might have to come out of contingency, so you do have to be mindful of expenses in there.
Thank you, Mary.
All right. So the next item on the agenda is the treasurer's presentation and recommendations for the FY25 municipal tax rate, and this was emailed to board members yesterday as well.
Somebody okay?
I'm just going to read for everyone listening or anyone. Okay. I recommend, this is my tax rate proposal for FY25, and my recommendation is that the board assign $574,212 of general fund unassigned fund balance to support the FY25 tax rate. This will result in a municipal tax rate of 2.0172. This is an increase of 7% over the prior year. So, bless you, whoever. Sorry. For a property with a $150,000 assessment, the proposed tax rate represents a $196.90 increase, or $49.15 per quarter. This is just municipal. This is a 7% increase over the prior year tax, and the combined municipal and education tax rates would be on $150,000, an increase of $344.95 on a homestead property, and $465.40 per year on a business non-homestead property. This proposal, we talk about, every year we're looking at unassigned fund balance, what's available for taxpayer relief. We have a policy in place to retain 10 to 15% of earnings for ongoing operations and for unforeseen emergency items that maybe we didn't plan for. So when I was doing the calculations and seeing the impact, the proposal that I made here is to reduce that from 10% to 9%, just to give a little bit more of the taxpayer relief as much as possible. So the tax rate involves offsetting the voter-approved appropriations, so that when the total appropriations, that's going to include the budget that was approved, any bond debt service that we have that's been approved, and the social agencies that spending that was approved. So those three things. And then we're going to offset that with the non-tax revenue, which we already talked about with a, it's $3.4 million, I think a 12% increase from last year. And then we also have transfers from the general fund. So those things, we bring those down and we're like, what else do we have? Unassigned fund balance, and how much is that? So we go through quite a calculation with all of this, but I just want to explain to get to where the tax rate proposal. So given those items, we need to raise $20,736,000 in property taxes. So that's, so you have to factor in the grand list. There's a lot there. But I did outline some of, any questions on the tax rate?
Alderwoman Davis.
So let's go back to the overspent. What was overspent? Budget approved by voters, budget spent. What's the difference?
Let me go back to this one. Remember, we have a lot of unbudgeted items flowing through. So I did, I separated budgeted expenses and, where did I put that? Oh, I had it on a separate schedule. Okay, so every department is, has a budget, right? So if you were looking at their department numbers, they were overspent by, $877,000. That includes expenses that were covered by fund balance in those positions that were added. Fund balance or reimbursements from, they may have been reimbursed partially. That's a lot of money. Look at the departments. There are several. We knew that police was going to be over budget, right? Go right down the list. Debt service was more because we do not budget for post-employee payouts, okay? So that's a high number. Transfers out, those are when we fund the BIAP and the bridge fund. So those come out of fund balance, right? Recreation was overspent by $158,000. Government buildings by $80,000. I put little notes in there because I wanted to see what was it. So, well, while I'm saying government buildings overspent by 79, that includes the Gov pilot, which came out of the contingency that was underspent. So there's some offsetting in there. So the net revenues that were over, and then the expense, we're really over budget by $248,000. If you net those two.
Alderman McKinnon.
So if we're overspent by, or over budget by that much, where I think I'm still having trouble tracking where the $470,000 or so that we're putting toward debt relief this upcoming year. How are we tracking that? Where does that extra money come from?
That's in your, so we've got the income statement here that's happening, that's telling us that we overspent by 248, and then on the balance sheet, we have unassigned fund balance. That's where that's coming from. That's where that number is coming from.
Okay.
That's where the policy is to retain 10 to 15% in that.
I got
so,
you.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
that helps.
Alderman Heck.
And in reality, you're holding at 9%, correct?
Right.
And we're not looking to go any lower than 9%.
No, I would not recommend going lower because we want to fix a current problem, but we do not want to have a problem in the future. You know, I think that's why I didn't propose 8%. I would love to give more, but I don't think that's in our best interest going forward. I mean, I'm okay with 10%. I was just looking for a good number. I kind of picked the middle.
And if I may, is there anything set aside from the 1% to go back to the taxpayers?
No, when that, the local option tax was approved by the voters, it wasn't for offsetting taxes.
Alderman McCann?
Thank you. I lost my question. So.
Very good.
Well, maybe if I may, to Alderman Heck's question, the 1% in a way does the way we spend it. So maybe because we use it to the pension, toward the pension,
right?
And that type of thing. So it's not like it saves the taxpayers money. It's just not applied to the tax rate, but it offsets some of the deficit that occurs in the pension and other funds.
Yeah.
But not all that is.
Hold on. If Alderman McCann has his hand up if he has a question for the treasurer, but if we're going to get into debate or discussion, we first need a motion on the floor. If you had a question for the treasurer.
Yeah, it came back to me. So the difference between holding back 10% and holding back 9%, can you sort of describe what the scale of the difference is?
It's about $230,000, and it's making a $40 difference in.
Great.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And the most important thing, and I'm glad you're asking questions, is we're dealing with, we're trying to make up additional $2 million in spending. So that's, it's not just in the numbers of what we have to put here. We're trying to make a tax rate and trying to save the taxpayers money as much as we can, and struggling with the $2 million increase.
Amen.
And so the 1% comes in because we took things out of this budget, that were in the general fund budget, and we put them over to 1%. So I'm hoping that we will start seeing some benefit to that 1%, because we should be stabilizing this tax rate with it and not seeing these kind of increases. In my time here, I know one thing: the tax rate goes up a little at a time, but we don't want it to go up and down. Nobody can handle the large increase. And it's getting, I know one of the reasons tonight I was hoping we could set the tax rate, as I've heard from so many people, hey, when am I going to get my bill? What are the taxes? I'm reading this, I'm reading that. I hope you are hearing that as well from people. People are genuinely concerned about their taxes.
My email is full.
Pardon?
My email is definitely full.
Alderman Heck?
And if I may, if it wasn't for the 1%, what kind of overspending? I mean, the 1% saved us how much that would have gone back to the taxpayers? How much did that help out this year?
Well, there were, in the budget, $800,000 that was taken out of the budget and moved to 1%. So paving, some of the sidewalk that normally is in our budget, which that's what the 1% is for, infrastructure, right? But
So if you're telling me then if we overspent by $2 million, if it wasn't for the 1%, we would have actually overspent almost $3 million on this budget then?
No, I don't want to use the phrase overspent, because we're just heading into that budget. But the budget was over, 1.8 over the prior year. And remember, the focus, most of that budget increase, the largest portion was public safety, the police department. But yes, you are correct. There was an additional, normally that would be in the operational budget, that moved over. So I always look at it as $2.5 million increase in the budget, whether it comes through property tax or it comes from the 1%, the spending that was proposed.
Alderman McCann?
Thanks. And there was a note in your memo that said the grand list value was up $6 million over the prior year. Can you help me understand where that comes from? Is that new buildings? Is that bringing older buildings up to a higher value? A mix of it? It seems like it's a good thing. I just want to understand what's adding to it.
It's a good thing, and I think it's a mix. And Assessor Langlois is here. Katie, if you want Katie to come up and speak to the change in the grand list. But I did do, while she's on her way up, I'll tell you, I did do a calculation. What if we didn't have this? What if the grand list was the same as last year? That's a $20 impact for the year. Thanks, Katie.
Okay, so what was the question, John?
What's factoring into that $6 million increase in the grand list? Is it new buildings or a change in value of existing buildings?
It's a big mixture. There's some new buildings. A lot of it is permit work, a lot of improvements made, tracking permits, and Green Mountain Power was up. They added, and they pay education. They pay as a real estate
Okay,
That's basically it, but a lot of little permits, a lot of permit work.
great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
I don't see any additional questions from the board. You provided a series of motions in your memo.
Yes.
What is the board's pleasure? Alderman McCann.
Motion to suspend the rules?
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to suspend the rules. It's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
And I would move that we approve to retain an unassigned fund balance of 9% for fiscal year 25 balance.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to retain an unassigned fund balance of 9% for FY25 balance. It has been seconded. Discussion or debate? Alderman Whitcomb.
Mostly just a question, but for people at home. I know we've done this a couple years in the past. The recommended number to retain is 10%. We've gone to 9% previously to offer some relief. Have we ever even approached like a spot where we might need 10% in recent memory? Like, is this a genuine concern? And I'm not saying as though it's something that should sustain, but
Well, sound financial policies and principles would dictate that 10 to 15% is probably low, right? 10% is low, so 9% is low. But you also have to weigh the impact to the community on, and I will say, so we're headed into a year where we have a really high budget, but we also have those issues with the water sewer fund that are draining our resources. So we are not, having these funds means I'm not at the door at the bank saying, I'm not going to make payroll this week. That's that ongoing operations that we're securing, so.
So just a quick follow-up question. I really appreciate that explanation. In this recommendation, though, you feel, I guess, like secure in that we're not likely in the next fiscal year for the city going to be in a position, based on what we know, we're knocking at the door of the bank saying we can't make payroll?
Well, I'm hoping that, in recognizing that we went to 9, we spent everything last year. We need to do a better job. Do we need to spend everything next year? Maybe not. Maybe we look at our expenses as we go through and say, what can we do differently? I know it's easy for me. I'm in a department where my budget is really just about the labor cost. I mean, there's not much wiggle room there. But some of the other things that we do and decisions that we make, those salaries that we increased the budget, they impacted because we said we're going to use fund balance resources, but then guess what? When we built a budget, we stuck those in there. So that was a significant increase in our budget. 70% of the city budget is salary, line 2 workers' comp.
Any additional discussion or debate? The motion is to retain an unassigned fund balance of 9% for FY25. Seeing no additional discussion or debate, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Alderman McCann.
And I would move to suspend the rules to consider the municipal tax rate tonight.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to suspend the rules again. It's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
And I would move for the approval to set the municipal tax rate at 2.0172 for fiscal year 25, which includes veteran and special exemptions.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to set the municipal tax rate. It's been seconded. Discussion or debate? Alderwoman Davis.
So I will be voting against this motion. I think there were plenty of opportunities through the budget process and through other issues that we discussed, salary increases that could have and should have waited until negotiations began. I think this is a heavy, heavy budget to put on to the taxpayers. I think we could have been done better, and I'm voting no.
Any additional discussion? Alderman Heck.
To the normal person, when the tax rate came out, called a couple folks, said, hey, by the way, $150,000 home, this is what your taxes are going to go to. I'll be honest with you, most people are like, okay. I'm not sure if any of you folks have dealt with it in my prior duties here, taking phone calls from old folks, 80-year-old men and women who just can't afford their homes anymore. They got nothing or nowhere else to go. That's the only thing they have left is their home. So there is a mass majority of people that are going to be able to sustain this, not really going to affect them all that much. But there is a minority of people out there that cannot take this kind of hit. And those are the people that I'm thinking about, because it's not very pleasant to talk to someone who's requesting an appeal. And basically I'm trying to tell them, you can't afford to live in your home anymore, and that's the only thing that they have. Everything's gone. Kids are gone, husband's gone, or wife's gone. That's all they have is their home. So there are those folks out there. So those are the kind of things that that at least I think about, and I'm going to side with Alderman Davis, and I just, I don't agree. I think that there's things that we need to look at and things that we need to continue to do. The predecessor of Mayor Dungis's, Mayor Loris, at one point and said, I can run this city on $5 million, and he would do it. You won't like it, but he would do it. So just remember, you know, because it's a $20 million, $27 or $28 million doesn't mean it needs to be gone as far as that goes. So I will be voting no on this as well.
Alderman McCann?
So I was just sort of curious how this budget stacked up with prior budgets. So I was looking on the city website and found the annual review, I think from 2017 was the oldest one I could find, and comparing that year's budget to this year, just, you know, finding a quick inflation calculator online, it tracked almost exactly to inflation. So thinking about budgets that the city has approved and utilized in years past, thinking about the way inflation you know, adjusts the costs for things, and hopefully, you know, the income that people are bringing in are tracking with that. I know it doesn't always, but as our economy changes, it seems like this is tracked with that. It doesn't necessarily make it easier when we see those numbers, right? And you know, voters approved this budget, but not everybody can sustain this budget. I believe there are programs through the state that can help people, you know, that are facing hardships when it comes to taxes of different types. I don't know if there's a way for the city to help make sure those resources are easily available through the city website or through the, you know, the treasurer's office. So if people are coming in and describing that hardship, we can make sure that they understand those resources are available as a way to help them kind of bear the cost that, you know, the rest of us may be able to do without that.
Alderwoman Davis?
So I will disagree with Alderman McCann. This wasn't just inflation, and we all know that. We sat in this room. These were additional positions. These were overspending of budgets. These were giving cost of living increases that were unaffordable at the time, knowing that we were going into negotiations with certain unions at the time. We could have had better discussions. We could have had, the treasurer gave us guidance. We ignored it. So it had, in my, you know, you can look at inflation, but I think it was irresponsible spending, and I can't support this tax rate.
Alderman McCann?
And I didn't mean to indicate that the change from last year to this year was just due to inflation, but trying to look at a longer term, you know, our city's budget tracked relative to inflation. So if this jump seems larger than inflation, then it might indicate that we're actually sort of catching up to the sorts of things that we used to spend on, or maybe different things, but, you know, sort of investing in the city to the same rate we did, you know, a number of years ago.
Alderman Whitcomb?
Question maybe for you, President Talbot, maybe for Treasurer Markowski, I don't know. I just recall a couple years ago actually sitting in that board chair seat with Mayor Allaire, and this board actually voted to not set the tax rate. And can we even do that? At the time, it seemed as though that's not something that's really an option for us. So I'm asking just for clarification. I'm frustrated with the taxes going up the amount that they are. I absolutely hear the concern of the people in the city, and the programs that are out there for relief aren't even remotely adequate. But if we vote no, is this just nothing more than a gesture at this point?
I don't think I'm qualified to answer that, but I would turn to the city attorney, perhaps.
If I may, we voted not to set the education tax rate.
The education tax, yeah.
Right, and what I recall, the guidance that we got from the
Right.
city attorney at that time was that it was purely symbolic, that,
Right.
that
But,
our
but
road
just
of
to
no
be
had
clear,
no
it was the
actual-
education piece that we chose not to set.
Then if I could though, could I get an answer for, say we did vote against this, like, what do we do? What happens?
I think you would find yourself back here fairly quickly on that. The state will still want their education tax rate. There's very minimal amount that we could do or change. It would be mostly a symbolic gesture.
Just clarification, and that's true of municipal tax rate too, not just like the education tax rate.
I believe, I would have to do some more research into that. I believe there is potential there, but I don't know without looking at the details onto that, what that would be. And I think that would be maybe a better question for Treasurer Markowski on whether that's...
So your question again, I didn't hear.
Yeah, sorry, Treasurer Markowski. I just remember a couple of years back, we did vote to not set the education tax rate.
Right.
We were frustrated. And it was symbolic, and I think we understood that. And I'm just trying to understand, like, I think there is a level of frustration in the amount of taxes that are going up quite clearly.
Mm-hmm.
But I just worry about what's the utility in engaging in nothing but a symbolic vote. So, like, I want to know, is there anything meaningful or that promotes inaction if we actually do vote down on this tax rate, or do we just come right back here and have to reset the same proposal, essentially?
I mean, I can go back and run numbers and we can sit down on the 20th, but I don't know, I really don't know how to do that. The board is required to set the rate by the 20th of July. My job is to make the recommendation, and if you folks think you want to cut the budget, I probably should have done that when we were doing the budget before it went to the voters, I'm saying. And you'll see that with the education rates, I didn't ask you to approve them this year. I said, please accept them, because I don't envy any town right now who's in a position where they don't have a school budget and they still have to manage a municipal budget. And that's not an easy task for any town, so.
I believe by charter, it has to be set
One
by the
second,
20th
Alderman
of
Gillen
July.
was next. Alderman Gillen.
We are in a very interesting situation here because the taxpayers did vote for that budget. I don't quite agree that we could have done a little bit better job on cutting that budget to bring to the voters. There is some, additional salaries in there that shouldn't have been there, and I agree with Alderman Davis and Heck. I will not vote for this budget for the sake of the emails that I've been getting today. And most of the emails I've been getting today are from renters in my neighborhood. They're the ones that are going to feel it the hardest. Because this school piece down here for the non-homestead, that's not just business, that's all the investment properties and real estate. They're going to get nailed. The poorest of our town are going to get the highest tax rate in their rent. It's going to fall into the rent. So I'm having a real problem with this. So I'm going to be voting against all the budgets, or the tax rate.
So if I may, Billy, respectfully, it's not so much the budget as it is setting up the tax rate is what was left over, what was going back to the taxpayers. It's to set the rate, which is now going to create that new tax. The budget's set as far as that goes, but if the spending was held in check, the tax rate would be better than it is right now. If there was, better income, the tax rate would be better now. If we could get more money back to the taxpayers, it would be better now. So it's basically looking at that rate and what is it that we can do about the rate? Can we get the rate lower? I've worked with Mary for a lot of years, and let me tell you, this woman does her due diligence. She works massive amount of hours looking at these things. So as much as I don't want to and will not support this, there will be a point in time where she's going to look at me and say, there's nothing we can do until the next budget or until the next COLA increase or to the next cost or the next election, whatever you want to call it. So we're kind of made our bed, going to have to lie in it at this point in time. But that is a lady right there that if she asks me to do something, at some point in time, I will have to do it.
Alderwoman Davis.
So, for the last time, symbolic or not, we overspent the budget. We overspent what was approved by the voters. So, voters approved a budget, we still overspent it. And I disagree with that. And this is nothing new to you. I spoke up at the budget time and said the same kind of things. So, do we have to set a tax rate? Yeah, absolutely. Do we have to set this one? I don't think so. So, Mary has done a phenomenal job, and I've reached out to Mary a couple of times to say, where are we? How are we doing? I agree. I think we have to protect the fund balance because it has other needs and responsibilities to it. But I don't have to vote for it just because we have to vote for it, because I cannot support this tax rate knowing that there were some irresponsible choices made, and I won't vote for it.
All right.
Symbolic or not.
Alderman Wickham?
I just come back to, by charter, if I'm correct, we have to set the tax rate by July 20th. If we were to vote this down now, we have a handful of days to figure out how to, in theory, reduce the tax rate that we would accept and do that in a responsible way in which we're not sort of haphazardly cutting things. I'm in agreement. Like this is a tough pill to swallow, and we can't just say we're going to be committed to doing better going forward. Like we really have to do our due diligence and find a way to not increase the burden to the already overburdened tax base here. But I'm worried, unless I'm hearing the treasurer say, I think in a handful of days I could find a way to lower this, I'm not going to cast a symbolic vote.
So the motion on the floor is to set the municipal tax rate at 2.0172 for FY25, which includes veteran and special exemptions. If there's no further discussion or debate, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes. All right. I believe there was a third motion that you were requesting in your memo.
Oh, let's see. I don't have kind of. There was one more, the acceptance of the education rate.
Alderman McCann.
Motion to suspend the rules and consider the state education rates tonight.
Second.
Right, we have a motion to suspend the rules. It has been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
And I would move that we accept the state education rates for the city at 1.6745 for homestead and 1.8571 for non-homestead.
Right, so we have a motion to accept the state education rates. It's been seconded. Discussion or debate? Alderman Gillen.
As I said before, these things are not in our control. The legislature decided to go home and raise the rate. And I think when people want to start yelling at somebody, they need to yell at their representatives that voted for it. And I'm not blaming the school, because the school has to deal with it like we do. And this is not, the rate went down on the homestead side, but it just went up on the non-residential side.
And business
Again,
side.
that will hurt the renters in Rutland. That is going to hurt my whole neighborhood. And most of my neighborhood are rental units. So unfortunately, there's nothing we can do. I'm going to vote no because it's symbolic, but still, not much we can do about it.
Any additional discussion or debate on setting the state education rates? Seeing none?
Roll call.
Sure. So a roll call vote. Alderman Heck has requested. The motion is to accept the state education rates for the city at 1.6745 for homestead and 1.8571 for non-homestead.
Alderman Heck?
No.
Alderman Barbagallo? Aye. Alderwoman Savage?
Yes.
Alderman Wickham?
No.
Alderman McCann?
Aye.
Alderwoman Taddeo?
Yes.
Alderman Gillum?
No.
Alderwoman McClure?
Yes.
Alderwoman Davis?
No.
Motion fails.
Mr. President,
5-4.
I'd like to, Megan, I don't know, I want to challenge the chair's decision on the tax rate of the 2.017, just based upon this here. I'm not so sure it would have passed. If there's 4 no now, there might have been 4 no then. Alderman McCann, or Alderman Adams is absent. 9 minus 4 is 5. That's not an approved motion. So I'd like to challenge the chair's decision on his stating that it passed.
I
Figure out how we're going to do
3
that.
noes, and there are 9 members on the floor.
Just do a roll.
But if you would like a roll call vote, we can do a roll call vote.
That would be great. Thank you.
Alderman Wickham.
Point of order. I purely accept that my vote is symbolic on the educational tax rate.
Yep.
They're going to collect their taxes no matter what. I would offer a motion to reconsider on that vote. I think that's what it is.
On the municipal?
On the educational.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Knowing that they're taking it no matter what, but I got what I wanted. I'm on record. I don't agree with it. So I'll put forth a motion to reconsider the acceptance of the state educational tax rates for the city at 1.6745 for the homestead and 1.8571 for non-homestead.
I think the challenging of the chair's decision has to come
first. Sorry about that.
But is there a second for that?
Yes, second.
Okay.
So if I may, on a reconsideration, the second has to come from the same vote. So if he voted no, the second would need to come from someone who voted in that no as well. Just not anyone can do a second on a reconsideration.
Has to be the negative.
So your challenge is that I miscounted the yeses and nos when setting the municipal tax rate?
So
I think we have 2 motions on the floor.
That's correct.
the
So this goes back into Matt's reconsideration of the question. In order for that question to be reconsidered, the seconder has to be in the same category, whether it's the affirmative or the negative. I believe Alderwoman was not voting no. That's why I call for roll call. So the only one that can second this is Sharon, Billy, or myself. For reconsideration specifically.
Okay, so we're now talking about the motion that Alderman Whitcomb made to reconsider.
That is
not
correct.
your challenge to the chair's decision.
That is correct, at the moment. Correct.
All right. Alderman Gillen, Alderwoman Davis, do you wish to second the motion to reconsider made by Alderman Whitcomb of the vote on the education tax rate?
No.
Alderman Gillen?
No.
Right. So there is no second to reconsider the motion.
His motion.
How does the board, Alderman Heck, you made a motion to challenge my decision. Did you want to move forward with that?
Please.
All right.
Or at least a roll call vote would be great.
Okay. So if the board is amenable, I'm fine with just doing a roll call vote for setting the municipal tax rate.
I'm okay with it.
Okay. Alderman Heck,
No.
Alderman Barbagallo,
Aye.
Alderwoman Savage,
Yes.
Alderman Whitcomb,
Yes.
Alderman McCann,
Aye.
Alderwoman Taddeo,
Aye.
Alderman Gillum,
No.
Alderwoman McClure,
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis.
No.
Very good.
Thank you.
Moving on to reports of standing committees. Sure.
I really want to weigh in on this because, well, I understand the no, and I get it. I mean, I talk to people every day about their taxes. Where the education rate is and what we decide to do will require that we write a check out to the state to cover the to the school for $3.5 million this year, or maybe better, whether we accept the rate or not. So, it is a big number, I get it, but the last time we did this, I spoke with someone at the state, and he said, "Oh, Mary, you're in trouble if you don't, you still got to pay it. So, you know what, whatever your board says, you still have to come up with the money." So we would still include it in the tax bill, so I appreciate, the symbolic nature, but we still would have to abide by whether we accept it or not. So. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. That was difficult for me as well, so thank you.
Mary. Moving on to reports of standing committees, we have Alderman Whitcomb with a report from the Finance Committee meeting of July 2nd. A copy is on page 63 of your packet.
Sorry, President Talbot, one moment, I locked myself out. I'm back in. spoke too soon. All right,
We can-
I'm back. The Finance Committee, we met on July 2nd. The agenda had two items. It was city credit card policy and the proposed creation of a mass media communication fund for the purpose of notifying the public of public hearings. Committee members present were myself, Alderwoman Davis, Alderman Savage, Alderman Barbagallo, Alderman Adams. Others present were President Talbot, Mayor Dunges, Treasurer Markowski, Chief Kilcullen, Attorney LaChance, and Gordon Drusilla from the Rutland Herald. The Finance Committee meeting began at 5:31 p.m. The meeting opened with Treasurer Markowski presenting and discussing the proposed Rutland City credit card purchasing policy. The purpose of the policy is to provide a convenient method for obtaining goods and services for the city. Alderman Davis inquired what credit card limits are in place. Treasurer Markowski discussed each department is different depending upon their needs. The exact amounts are outlined in the City of Rutland credit card policy. The committee discussed that credit card utilization should be maintained in a manner that's consistent with the existence of the purchasing policy. Alderwoman Davis made a motion to approve the City of Rutland credit card policy as presented and to adopt the recommended corresponding credit card limits as follows. For recreation, $3,000. For police, $17,500. For fire, $5,000. For City Hall, $10,000. For the Godnick Center, $3,000. The motion passed 5-0, and I so move.
Second.
All right, we have a motion. It has been seconded. Discussion or debate? Alderman Heck.
The only question I have is the Board of Finance rules will be followed in regards if a purchase of $3,000 or more is made, it has to go before the Board of Finance. These are just limits that will be attainable for them to spend, but the $3,000 limit, if it goes above that, would come to the Board of Finance first.
Correct. The purchasing policy will remain the same.
Thank you.
Any additional discussion or debate on the motion to adopt the new credit card policy? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Next, the committee took up the discussion on the creation of a mass media communication fund for notifying the public of public meetings. The committee was provided with a fast fact sheet outlining current mailings that the city sends to residents, as well as the current locations that the meetings are warned for cost reference purposes. Additionally, the committee was provided with a sample proposal that had previously been submitted to the city that would provide text messages to residents who registered for the service. The committee proceeded to discuss multiple ways in which residents and interested stakeholders could be notified of municipal meetings. The committee largely agreed that there are a multitude of communication avenues that could be utilized for members of the public to adequately be notified, but that the best approach centered on providing targeted education to the public that focused on existing locations of warned meetings. The committee agreed that educating the public on how to utilize the Google Calendar maintained by the city would be the most sensible and cost-effective option for individuals to stay informed of city meetings. No formal action was taken on this item, and this is for information only.
Alderwoman McClure.
Just a proposed edit to these minutes. Under others present, I was present as well, and I do not seem to have been marked.
I apologize. Alderwoman McClure was present, and I must have missed her as I was taking.
We'll make sure that's amended with the copy the city clerk has. Next, we have Alderwoman Taddeo with a report from the Community and Economic Development Committee meeting of July 3rd. A copy is on pages 64 to 65 of your packet.
Topics were the Berwick Hotel site, recommendation to edit the special event permit application language to require posting about road closures, and the Blush Salon buy-app. Committee members present were myself, Alderwoman McClure, Alderman Whitcomb, and Alderwoman Davis. Others present were Mayor Dunges, President Talbot, Alderman Barbagallo, Alderman Adams, Ed Bove from the RRA, and Gordon Drusilla from the Rutland Herald. Meeting was called to order at 5:30 p.m. First, I set the order of the meeting. The Blush Salon buy-up will be discussed at a different committee meeting because the applicant was unavailable. The second order of business was an update on the new hotel site at the Berwick site, followed by the special event permit conversation. Mayor Dunges gave an update on the current plans for the hotel that will be located where the old Berwick Hotel stood. Belden Construction Company is currently planning a 7-story structure with 4 stories of hotel containing 100 hotel rooms. There will be 2 stories set aside for 26 apartments. There will be underground parking and hopefully a rooftop business. The hotel will be built at the site of the pit where the Berwick Hotel and old dry cleaner burned down in the 1970s. To build the hotel, the developers need to clean up hazardous materials, including PFAS. The original estimates in 2013 to clean up the site were $500,000, and current estimates are $5 million. The developer is working to procure funding to hopefully begin the cleanup this fall. There are likely Environmental Protection Agency funds available to help clean up brownfield sites. Rutland City's involvement in the plan includes ensuring that there are water and wastewater connections and working with Green Mountain Power and the Department of Public Works to get power to the site. The city is hoping to coordinate the opening of the hotel with the opening of the Paramount and Center Street so that neither project interrupts business for each other. No motion or action was needed for this topic, and the Berwick Hotel site will remain in committee. Next, the committee discussed the special event permit application. After recent events, neighbors and businesses have complained that they did not receive advance warning and adequate notice that streets would be closing. The committee discussed a few options of methods to notify the public. One easy option is to have a city calendar for events that require street closings or that require a special event permit so that the public can check for events. The mayor said he would begin work on this right away. The committee had a conversation about how to not impede events and encourage businesses, but also strike a balance of giving fair warning to locals when roads would be closed. Alderman Barbagallo suggested that we set a certain time frame by which people holding special events must notify surrounding neighbors and businesses, but ultimately the committee felt this would be too great a burden for people holding events. It was determined that it would be appropriate to add language to the special event permit application to ask the applicant what actions will be taken to notify neighbors. At future board meetings, when considering SEP applications, if the Board of Aldermen feel that the applicant's response to the question is insufficient, then they can deny the permit at the meeting until the applicant provides a more robust notification plan. Alderwoman McClure made a motion to add a question to the special event permit that reads, how will you notify neighbors and businesses that roads will be closed for your event? What is your action plan? In parentheses, a sufficient action plan could include contacting businesses and neighbors in one or more of the following ways: emails, phone calls, physical notice in the form of a mailer, and or speaking with people door to door. This motion passed 4-0, and I so move.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to amend the special event permit. It has been seconded. Discussion or debate? Alderman Gillen?
I just want to make a comment. I wasn't there at the meeting because I was out of town, but when we do the Loyalty Day Parade, it's standard procedure for the parade committee to send a letter, hand-delivered to every business downtown and the parade route, and every neighbor in the gathering area or the staging area, all the neighbors know that we're closing the streets down. And that's done 1 week prior. So we already do that. And I would suggest that other events do the same thing. But we need to find some, I agree, we need to find some central location where a taxpayer or a homeowner can go to and say, oh, these roads are closed. It's too bad we can't get into the 511 system, because I know Brandon, when they had the parade, they were in there as the road closed for the parade. So maybe that's another avenue that we can take.
All right, so again, we have a motion to amend the special event permit with a question about notification. It's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Alderwoman McClure made a motion to update Section 8 on the special event permit application to include a section on social media. It will read, social media, and then in question mark, and then in parentheses, Front Porch Forum, Facebook, Instagram, X, and any other social media platforms. This motion passed 4-0, and I so move.
Second.
All right, so we have another motion to amend the special event permit related to social media advertising of event road closures. It's been seconded. Discussion or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Meeting adjourned at 6:21 p.m.
Moving on to reports of select committees, we have Alderman Barbagallo with a report from the Parking Committee meeting of July 10th. A copy is on pages 66 to 67.
The Parking Committee met on July 10th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. In attendance were committee members Alderman Barbagallo, McClure, and McCann, and DPW Commissioner Protovansky. Also in attendance were Mayor Dunges, Alderman Talbots and Davis, John Santinello from Laz, Tom Franzoni, Officer Rosario, Ed Bove, and Hal Asante. 2 items are on the agenda. First was a review of the parking fund revenue, and second, who is responsible for cleaning the parking deck. First, Treasurer Markowski provided a 5-year history of revenue for the parking in the city, excluding the parking deck. Attached to this report is a document showing these numbers. It shows the history for the first 6 months of revenue for each of the starting year, each year starting in 2020. All 5 years show revenue from both meters and kiosks. Also included are revenue numbers from parking tickets paid and permit/hood fees paid for all 5 years. In the year 2024, parking meter park mobile app was added. As 2020 was the start of COVID, numbers were down but increased each year up to the present date. 2024 showed coin numbers and meters were down slightly, but with the addition of mobile app, the total income for meters, kiosks, and mobile app showed an increase from 2023 of $15,140.32. Hopefully, if these numbers continue, the parking meter deficit will start to shrink. It should be reported that all money received from mobile app does not include fees associated with the use of the app. Those fees are paid by the user. Commissioner Protovansky noted in his report that we still have $39,933 left in ARPA money available for future use. To date, 2 new kiosks, 205 new meters, and 50-plus older meters have been purchased or retrofitted. At a future meeting, we will discuss the possible purchase of additional kiosks and meters and where they should be located. Mobile app can be used in any space within the city. The price of the 2 new kiosks installed would cost $3,200 each. Also to be discussed are locations to be used by kiosks, meters, or just mobile app. Mayor Dunges stated that he will submit a recommendation list to the committee for their consideration. Mr. Santinello recommended to me to try and start using mobile app more as he sees it as increasing in the future. I informed him that we still use kiosks and meters for people who do not know how to use the app or simply do not want to. Also, I told him not everyone has access to a debit or credit card, that being teenagers and people with poor credit history. The parking deck questions I asked were, who owns the deck? Who owns the land under the deck? Who is responsible for cleaning the deck? And is the deck a no smoking zone? The deck and land under the deck are owned by the state of Vermont. The passageway to Center Street is not. The state is responsible for cleaning the bottom floor, that's the ground level, and LAS, through their contract, is responsible for the upper floors. Commissioner Protovansky will contact the state to address the cleanliness of the bottom floor. Complaints have been made about cigarette butts creating a mess there, as well as other trash. According to John Santinello, this is a no smoking area. I drove through the lower level of the deck prior to the meeting and only saw 3 no smoking signs, all on one post near the building at the back of the deck. There may be more, but I did not see them. Commissioner Protovansky will address this with the state also. Signs should be posted throughout the deck, including areas where you enter the deck. We have not received any complaints about cleanliness of the upper floors or staircases. No motions were made and all items will remain for future discussion. The meeting ended at 6:02.
Thank you. Alderwoman Taddeo is up again with a report from the Environmental Sustainability Committee meeting of July 11th. There's a copy on pages 69 to 70.
Back again with our special event permit applications. This time we were adding an environmental plan to the special event permit application. Committee members present were myself, Alderman Joe Barbagallo, Alderman McCann. Others present, President Talbot, Alderwoman McClure, Alderman Gillen, Mark Shea, who is the Municipal District Manager at Rutland County Solid Waste District, Desna Jenkins, who is the Outreach Coordinator for Rutland County Solid Waste District, and Gordon. The meeting was called to order at 5:30 p.m. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss adding language to special event permit applications about dealing with garbage removal. The item was referred to committee after members of the public complained about trash that remained after various public events. The Environmental Sustainability Committee had a meeting and discussed what should be required of the applicant for an event permit. Ultimately, the committee decided to ask the applicant how they will deal with trash. The original suggested language was, what arrangements have been made to minimize trash and minimize environmental impacts. This was voted down at the full board and sent back to committee to ensure that the applicant was asked enough questions about their plans for trash disposal. At the committee meeting, expert testimony was given by Mark Shea, the Municipal District Manager at Rutland County Solid Waste District, and Desna Jenkins, the Outreach Coordinator for Rutland County Solid Waste. They informed the committee that per state law, Act 148, food waste, recycling, Clean wood scraps and leaf and yard debris are illegal to throw in the trash. This applies to events as well. The committee discussed various questions to ask applicants and the merits of those questions. Ultimately, the committee favored adding 2 sections to the special event permit. A motion was made to add a section to the special event permit, Section 14, Environmental Considerations. What arrangements have been made to minimize trash creation and minimize environmental impact? This motion passed 3-0, and I so move.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to amend the special event permit to include a new section on environmental considerations. It's been seconded. Discussion or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
A second motion was made to add another section to the special event permit. It would be Section 15, Solid Waste Management. A, by law, Act 148, an act relating to establishing universal recycling of solid waste. Events are required to sort their trash, food waste, and recycling. I acknowledge that I am responsible for ensuring appropriate waste disposal with an option to check yes or no. B, who is your point person for waste removal? Do you have a contractor for trash removal? Who will be responsible for hauling your waste to the transfer station? C, how do you plan to sort food waste and recycling? How will you manage your food waste? D, how will you plan for trash removal? How will your plan for trash removal comply with Act 148 to dispose of trash, food waste, and recycling? This motion passed 3-0, and I so move.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to add a section to the special event permit on solid waste management. It has been seconded. Alderwoman Davis.
Just a question. So with the solid waste folks in the room, is there a charge if they bring receptacles downtown for a special events permit? And is there a way that, do we have, if not, is there a contact information for them that the permit person can reach out to?
I think she wants to answer.
Alderwoman McClure.
Being the person who referred this to me, I was very, very excited to get this feedback from the folks at the Solid Waste District. The Solid Waste District will actually provide trash receptacles for all 3 categories free of charge to event holders if they choose to reach out. Their contact information is available online, and I believe there was conversation about having an email or something like that available on the city website, as well as that information being available in the city clerk's office.
So is it possible to just add that information to the permit itself?
We discussed it at the meeting. I believe the consideration was, what if that changes, right? What if they're not able to do that? But rather, we could encourage the city clerk's office to communicate that to anyone who applies for a special event permit.
Right. Thank you.
All right, any additional discussion or debate on the motion to add Section 15, solid waste management, to the special event permit? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Meeting adjourned at 6:14 p.m.
Moving on to reports of representatives, we have none. Petitions, letters, miscellaneous communications, we have none. Board of Control Commissioners, we have nothing on the agenda. Board of Cannabis Commissioners, we have a request for renewal of the retail license for Mountain Girl Cannabis. I would entertain a motion to go into the Board of Control Commissioners.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to go into the Board of Control Commissioners. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
And I would move to approve Mountain Girl cannabis license.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the retail license renewal for Mountain Girl Cannabis. It's been seconded. Alderwoman Davis.
Just a question. So like for liquor, when we renew licenses, if there's an issue, we get something attached or we get something that there's no issue. I assume there's been no issue that we have been aware of. Okay, thank you.
So we have a motion to approve. It's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. I'd entertain a motion to go out of the Board of Control.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. That brings us to unfinished business. Any unfinished business that board members wish to raise? Seeing none, that brings us to miscellaneous motions, resolutions, new business. Alderwoman McClure.
Yeah, I was actually very excited to have Miss Emily Wood present here tonight because she shared a very interesting concept, and it's something that I've been toying around with for a while, and it's something I've had a lot of community conversations about. And back in the days of old, I say probably about a decade ago, when I was a teenager in Pine Hill Park, there was a really, really big rock. and that rock was a communal graffiti wall. And it was super cool. You would go in and it would always be something different on there. Tons of local youth would use that as a space for self-expression. I do not know if it was permitted. I was not involved in city government at that time, but I would love to refer to potentially the Recreation Committee, the discussion of a communal art wall, a communal street art wall. It seems to be there is a lot of graffiti in the area. Statistically, a lot of graffiti comes from young people who may be looking for artistic expression and outlets. I think we have a thriving arts community in the Rutland area, and it would be an amazing resource to be able to connect youth who may not otherwise have felt welcome in those spaces to an art form that really represents who they are, what they're feeling, and the culture that they are coming from. So I would make that motion to refer to Recreation.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to refer to Recreation, a discussion of creating a community art wall. It's been seconded. Discussion or debate on the referral? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Any additional miscellaneous motions, resolutions, or new business? Seeing none, we have an executive session. Attorney LaChance, if you would read us the language to go into executive
Yes,
session.
so I would look for a motion to find that premature general public knowledge regarding the negotiation of a contract would clearly place the city at a substantial disadvantage because the discussion will divulge the board's position on the contract provisions to be negotiated.
So moved. Second.
All right, so we have a motion. It has been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
All right, and then I would entertain a motion to enter into executive session with the inclusion of the mayor, treasurer, clerk, city attorney, executive director of the Rutland Free Library, and this is where I ask who else the library has brought with them that needed to be included in the discussion.
Oops,
We
sorry.
have the president of the Board of Trustees and our building project manager. So that would be Barry Cohen and Elizabeth Koulis.
Thank you, with the collusion of them as well.
So moved. Second.
All right, so we have a motion. It has been seconded.
Yep, I got you, Mary.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.